well, I'm going to do my best to make sure that it's fair and make sure that I'm not going to fair and balanced. But um, I'll give you my own personal take on some things just because, being a citizen of Lynn Haven, and one of the reasons why I want to have you on wasn't necessarily because I agree with everything that you say or do. And I know you know that we haven't got along on everything, but
Right.
but the thing is we can still sit down and we can talk, but there is a majority of I want to say there's a majority of Lynn Haven, but there's also a majority in the county because everybody's been watching this. It's almost kind of embarrassing. If you live in Lynn Haven, that was one of the things that me and my wife were talking about. We don't really know if we're planning on staying in Lynn Haven.
Oh, wow.
Just because it's like, we actually our neighbor across the street, I mean, you saw they got a sign up for sale. I mean,
I
there's
did
there's
see that
people
coming in, yeah.
that they just moved here. Well, they just moved here probably about a year ago. And I've had conversations with them about what goes on in Lynn Haven, and they're just kind of like, wow, there's a lot of drama. And it is more drama than what I would consider a normal city. Um, but, you know, I think right now you have three different groups.
Okay.
I hate putting people in groups, but that's kind of like where we're at right now. You have one side that is very upset about this, what they consider injustice to the mayor that was there before you. And I think and I'm going to use the word hate because, wh- because of certain things that are said online and how things are portrayed to be, and you intentionally twist and turn what somebody says. Um, yeah, I mean that's an element of hatred, I think. And so, and then it's like, well, we're going to hate somebody because they're not what we want and he's part of this system and everything like that. Then you have the other side, which does take your side. They don't, d- Based on the same group that I'm talking about, when I have conversations with them, they don't necessarily go to your defense on everything either. They say he's a man just like anybody else. They're kind of like logical thinkers. And then you have the middle of the road where people are just tired of hearing about it. And they're like, so perfect example, guy, one of, so I handle social media for a lot of different companies. And one of the distributors of a company that I work for was having a conversation with me, and he lives right over there as you're going in the country club.
Okay.
And he's like, dude, he said, I signed the recall twice. He says, so the first time they came by, and then the second time they came by. He says, the both times it was kind of like I just signed it just because, again, he had seen clips of different things. And then he was like, I was just I wanted them off my doorstep. They came by at horrible times when was trying to get stuff done. He said the third time when they came by, he says he just pretended like they weren't even at the door because it had just annoyed him. But he had said, if that's what's going to make him happy, then fine, I'll sign it. And so if you think about that, how many people signed the recall based on that? Because we did a breakdown of the amount of people. Who did I have on? I think it was just Alex and I. We sat down and we did a breakdown of it. But um, the amount of people that signed the recall was more than who have been signing up or who have been showing up to regular elections.
Yeah.
So I think we both can agree that it's like there's a lot of people that are signing that thing that might not be well versed and might they're not doing their research on what actually goes on, and they're just going off of negativity on their doorstep. So that's how I look at it. I mean, you're welcome to tell me if I'm looking at it wrong or
Well, certainly when we looked at the numbers in regards to how many people signed the recall, especially for the 15%, we did back at some previous elections, and I'm not sure. I can't remember if there was a candidate that has received that many, numbers of voters, in their favor in a particular election. So one of the questions has been, though someone signed the recall, are they going to show up at the poll? Are they going to, submit an absentee ballot? Are they going to actually follow through when it comes to the actual recall vote? So that has been some things that have been discussed within my team as to how far does this commitment go? Because sometimes it is easier to sign a document when someone comes to your front door, to sign a survey, to sign a petition, versus when you actually have to go and do it yourself. So But yeah, I can see your point in the groupings as well. I have talked with several of my supporters, friends about this situation, and you're right. All of them don't agree with every decision I make. I have some close friends that don't agree with every decision I've made as it relates to being mayor. Sometimes it impacts them personally. No one likes when the rates go up. I don't like when the rates go up. However, we make those decisions based on what's going to be the best outcome financially for the future of the city. Uh, I wasn't a big fan of stormwater assessment because that's adding another fee, especially towards those who have limited incomes, like our seniors and other retirees that retired years ago. So their
Yeah.
level of income is certainly different. However, now that we've seen the stormwater assessment implemented and actually seen the work being done with that, and seeing that we do have better stormwater, better drainage in the city of Lynn Haven as a result of that, I still can't say that, hey, I'm a fan of asking people to pay more money in order to resolve this issue, but I do like the result that we're getting from that. However, I have friends that don't like it, right?
Yeah.
So I do have friends that disagree with me on different decisions that I make or that the commission makes, especially within the past couple of years with a lot of the challenges that we've had as it relates to the city of Lynn Haven. So, but with that, again, I still just have to make decisions off what I think is the right thing to do for the whole and not just for a particular interest group. And I think that's important for people to know. I don't make my decision based on a particular interest group. Like, hey, this is the group that I like, or this is the group that supports me, or I think this is the group that likes me. Let me make a vote based on this particular group as much as how is this going to impact all the citizens? How is this going to impact the entire city? How does this reflect on us? And try to make my decisions based on that.
Yeah. That was another thing. Something. There's crazy stuff that's out there that's alluded to all the time, and me and you, I have not asked you any of these questions. Me and
Yeah.
you did not get a like. This is a straight talk. This is whatever people can believe whatever they want to believe, but I do. This is just something so random. I actually feel embarrassed asking you this because I know it's so stupid. Um, have you paid your utility bills?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I just had to ask it.
Yeah.
I have to do research before I have somebody on. I always got to see what other people are saying, and I. Mm. But yeah, okay. So you pay your utility bills.
Yeah. You don't get free water in Lynn Haven.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know of anyone that gets free water. So yeah, I have to pay my utility bills just like everybody else.
Yeah, I figured. All right, well, get into the real questions because I could spend. I mean, we could spend all day talking about the dumb questions because. Oh yeah, this is another thing. I do have to ask another stupid question because I got the amount of redneck misspelled hate mail that I get
Oh
where
wow.
people just do not think before they type is ridiculous. Um, have you ever been a registered Democrat ever?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Alabama, grew up in South Alabama,
Mhm.
and so was a registered Democrat in South Alabama. My mother was a registered Democrat. My grandmother was a registered Democrat. However, we were conservative Democrats. So not liberal Democrats, very conservative in our thinking and our ideology. I'm a
Okay.
bit,
Explain that.
so conservative, meaning in the sense of many of our democratic values. If you were to take labels off, all
Mhm.
right. So a lot of times we identify people by labels of Republican, Democrat. But if you take labels off and just put values down, all right, if you put values down and say, hey, do you agree with this? Do you agree with this? Do you agree with this? Many of my values are conservative values.
So basically, like abortion, like
Right. Those like
like
abortion,
like
you know,
capitalism,
yeah.
like you have the right to, yeah, yeah.
So when you look at family values and being fiscally conservative, those type of values, if you just take a label off,
Yeah,
because I think one of the things that we've hurt ourselves in society is thinking that only Republicans have conservative
yeah.
values and only Democrats have very liberal values.
Mhm.
And so think about this for a moment. If there's a majority of either party, Republican or Democrat, that is in legislative power. So if the majority of the House or the Senate is Republican, or if the majority of the House or Senate is Democrat, if something is passed that is contrary to what that party normally approves of, then who voted for it?
Hmm.
Okay, I don't think we stop to think about that.
Yeah.
That if there is something that is
It's past that.
Democrat
Yeah.
in nature that is passed, then the Democrats couldn't pass it by themselves.
Yeah.
And vice versa. The Republicans couldn't pass it by themselves if it's the opposite of that. That if it's a majority Democratic House or Senate, and this is whether it's the state level, national level, and if something is passed that is contrary to what that party normally vows to, then who's the one that's actually supporting that? And so yes, I was a Democrat, was a registered Democrat until I moved here. I actually became nonpartisan when I moved here,
Okay. That was in what year?
2014.
So,
So moved here in 2014. I've been registered as nonpartisan since 2015.
okay. And when did you run for mayor, though?
I ran for mayor in 2021.
Okay. So you had been okay.
Yeah,
Registered in
so
PA.
nonpartisan for
Is there a
6
reason why you
years.
didn't go Republican?
One of the reasons I didn't do Republican is because I was trying to understand the Republican Party. Because of course, I grew up Democrat, so I understood what the Democratic Party represented,
Mm.
and I didn't agree with everything the Democratic Party represented from my personal integrity, from my character. I just didn't agree with all of the things that the Democratic Party represented. And on the other side of that, I don't always totally agree with everything the Republican Party represents either.
Mhm.
And so I had strongly looked at, my family and I talked about, okay, hey, what does it look like to be a Republican? What does it look like to be a Republican in Bay County?
Mhm.
So it is something that, we were looking into, especially when you're not able to vote in primaries and things, that you want to, try to become a part of a particular party, whether it's Republican or Democrat, so that you can at least have a voice in the primaries to determine who's going to be my next governor, who's going to be my next president,
It was
who's going to
actually
be my
hard
next
finding it because I
senator.
tried. I tried to look up your
Yeah.
stuff. I couldn't find it, and so I made a mistake because I've said you've never been a Democrat.
So
So
no, I've never been a
yeah,
Democrat since I've been in Florida.
yeah.
But again, I think what's misconstrued for those that say that I'm a Democrat is not understanding what a Southern Democrat or what a
My
Southern
my
Alabama Democrat is. And many people don't realize that Bay County was a majority Democrat at one time.
yeah,
If you look at 20 years ago, Bay County was a Democrat, but it was still conservative. It was not
yeah,
a liberal Democrat. It didn't lean to the far left. It was still
yeah.
Democrat. So I was a registered Democrat when I lived in Alabama. When I moved here, became nonpartisan. Again, because I didn't agree with all of the values that the Democratic Party was espousing at that particular time. So thought that it would be better for me not to have allegiance to any particular party. Therefore, I could be an independent thinker. And then when it comes time for election, vote for the person I believe that best represents my morals and my values.
Yeah.
And that's how my family votes. We vote on who best represents my morals and my values, who best represents Christ, who best represents the kingdom of God. And so that's how we decide to vote when we do go to the polls, whether it's for president, whether it's for governor,
Yeah.
senator, local elections, who really represents me. Like, I want that person that's sitting there to be a representative of what I truly believe and what, I espouse as well. So we enjoy being independent in that sense. Again, we get left out of some things because we can't vote in primaries. But being nonpartisan gives me the freedom to not be pigeonholed into saying just because you're a particular affiliation with a party, now you have whatever that party does or doesn't do, that's your label.
Yeah.
And so didn't want to be labeled by a particular party anymore. Democrats in Alabama are certainly different than, Democrats in New York or Democrats in Pennsylvania, Democrats in Vermont. It's a different type of Democrat. It's a Southern Democrat. And so you have Southern values, again, conservative, family. You really, want to do things that are best for the entire community.
Yeah. Well, thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is I think, yeah, like you said, here in Bay County, I mean, yeah, once upon a time, man, they were pretty, like, yeah, we were Democrats. The majority, in fact, I mean, the last mayor of Panama City, I mean, he was well, the guy before well, the two
Yeah,
the
Mayor Brutnicki.
yeah,
Yeah,
Britnicky was a Democrat, and I mean, as far as I know, I mean, there's all kinds of stories out there about corruption for every municipality, but he had been there for a while. He did a great job,
yeah. I
and
think it was
then
there 12 years, I believe it was.
yeah, we went from calm and collected meetings for the most part to just the absolute circus, and that's how they won. That's how the Republicans won here locally was they hit him on being a Democrat so many times, and then finally just he got drowned out, and then they brought in this other guy, and then this other guy was just allowed. I mean, dude. And then now we got rid of that, and now we have a pretty level-headed mayor again. So it's like it's almost as if you have someone who's level-headed, it's I don't know. Yeah, but all right. So to the real questions. Um, so explain the legal grounds of the recall and what can be met and what isn't met, because I think right now there's this. I've looked at the grounds for a
Yeah,
recall, and none of them match what is going on, and they try to say that it's the malfeasance part,
right.
and so where are they getting that from, and how do you what do you have to say about it?
So, from my understanding, and this is speaking, from what I understand as to what they're um, stating, is that Mayor Nelson is guilty of malfeasance because he had knowledge of and or participated in, and I'm just paraphrasing a lot of this here.
That's fine.
Bid rigging, shielding Miss Gaynor from being terminated or disciplined in order that he might protect himself, so that none of this would actually come out. And so that, if that is true, then that within itself meets the grounds of malfeasance. That if you are guilty of bid rigging, and then having knowledge of and or participating in bid rigging, there's a state statute that talks about that.
Yeah.
However, first and foremost, none of that's true, right? I haven't participated in any of that, so none of that's true. You can actually go back and listen to the depositions or even in the interviews that we conducted as commissioners of the employees that were in this room where this conversation happened about changing bid regulations. My name never came up as being one of the persons in that room to actually be a part of that conversation. So I never participated in changing any bid regulations and never had any knowledge of any bidding illegalities as it relates to that. So if you say that, hey, this is malfeasance, and you find a statute or you find some type of action that reaches the level of malfeasance, then you can call it malfeasance. So you can call anything malfeasance if you say this is what he did and this reaches the level of malfeasance. Now it's malfeasance. And so one of the challenging parts that we've talked about with my legal team has been that the courts do not look at the truth or falsity of the actual allegation itself. So, although I'm being accused of bid rigging, then the judge really just will probably just look at the actual petition and then the statement that's made to see, does this really reach the level of malfeasance based on this actual allegation. And so that's one of the disheartening parts about the legal system and the way the statute is written, is that they're really only focusing on the petition and not necessarily looking at other evidence as to, did you commit this crime or not?
So what's the point of having the what is the point of having the list of things that will
Well,
do it that you can follow through the recall if it doesn't matter?
so I guess one of the reasons to have that list is so that people just won't recall you for bogus reasons, to say, hey, I don't like this person, because a lot of times,
But this is a bogus reason because they can't prove what they're saying.
right, there's no proof of that. So what my team, and I'm sure you've read the complaint that we filed in regards to the petition, and it's just irregularities and it not meeting the statute of being malfeasance is that one, my position as mayor has nothing to do with bid regulations. And so that's one thing that,
Yeah.
yeah, my position, there's nothing in the charter. You can go
Yeah.
look at the charter. There's nothing in the charter that gives me the authority to really work on bid regulations. And if we do anything with bid regulations, it would be as a council and not me individually. So then if I'm guilty of malfeasance for bid rigging, then all of us would be guilty of malfeasance for bid rigging because that's something that the entire commission will be responsible to do and not just me as mayor. The other issue when it comes to,
So, well, let
yeah,
me. So, right now, pretty much anybody can use malfeasance to get rid of anybody that's up there on the commission. That's where they stand. That anybody who is,
you
yeah.
could, if you could find a particular reason that breaches the level of malfeasance that, hey, um, this person committed this particular act
Or it's
and
just allegations that says that they did.
yeah, or just allegations. You don't
You
have
could
to
start a
have,
recall.
yeah, you can start a recall. You don't have to have proof that they actually did it. Um,
So you can. So if I have like a show where I've got like 20,000 followers and I just keep saying it over and over and over again, and then you have enough people that start believing it, and then they go knock on doors and get recall signed, then you could probably get it done.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't have to have any proof to show that I did that.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was talking with a friend earlier today, and we just talked about the logic of it. Considering the scrutiny that Lynn Haven has been under in the past few years, especially with the post-Hurricane Michael corruption, I would be arrested, indicted, charged, in jail
Yeah.
if I
Exactly.
was guilty of any of this.
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, there's some type of big cooperation going on between me and the state attorney's office and the sheriff's department or the FBI or anyone else that would be investigating it to say, oh, that's Mayor Nelson. We're not going to worry about it. No, if it was true, then there would be legal ramifications for that, criminal ramifications for that, if any of this was true. So the logical part is, well, if he did this, then why hasn't the other things actually happened?
Yeah. Why hasn't he been arrested?
Yeah, why hasn't he been arrested?
Why hasn't he been indicted? Why
Why?
hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll say, I don't want to speak too much on Miss Gaynor's case, but that was some of the questions I had whenever we investigated the employees. I asked the attorneys that if she was guilty, if this was wrong,
Yeah.
if let's say if she did do this, and if this was wrong, it's already been across a judge's desk several times. Why didn't the judge say, hey, this person needs to be indicted or this person needs to be charged with a particular crime if this was actually something that was, legally wrong? And so the attorneys, of course, they're not judges, but the attorneys said there's nothing illegal about these particular actions if that did happen. But I'll also say, so when it comes to the malfeasance, that is sort of what is in the air, is that you have these allegations that are being made which have not been substantiated by any factual proof at all. But then also what you have is that I'm not in a position to actually make those decisions, for one. Second, when it comes to me shielding Miss Gaynor in order to protect myself, as they say, to not suffer the ramifications of these particular actions, I can't shield Miss Gaynor from not being disciplined by the commission because she is not under my sole authority. She was under the authority of the commission, just like Mr. Chris Lightfoot, just like Jennifer Hodges was, right? And so there's not one particular person that has supervisory power over the city manager or interim city manager in this position now. It is the commission that does that. And so as we've done our research, that by stating this, by making this statement that, hey, you have the authority to shield Miss Gaynor, that also adds some falsity to the actual allegation within itself, which then should debunk the whole allegation, because you're trying to put some truth, which is not even true, with something that can't even happen. And so now how does this legally stand? So that's why we believe it's legally insufficient, because the things they're claiming I can't even do. So I can't shield Miss Gaynor from being terminated. I didn't shield Miss Gaynor for being terminated.
Well, even if you did, well, yeah, not shielding her for being terminated, but like when we sit there and we say like we stand up for our staff, right, or you stand up for your staff, uh, I've watched it happen in Panama City meetings before. I literally watched Brian Granger, uh, you know, in the middle of a meeting, and I believe Josh Street's done it too, and I think I've even seen it from Jenna Halligus, where they in a way, it looked like they were protecting Jonathan Hayes
Mm,
from, Doc Rowan, and they're just like, "Hey, he's doing his job. Stop beating up on him."
yeah,
And I think I never, you never said those are exact quotes. Like they literally have said that before in those meetings, and nobody really. I'm not saying that nobody bats an eye at it, but it is almost kind of like, "Hey, he works for us. He's doing a good job."
yeah,
And even if you were, which I've heard it come out of several commissioners' mouths over the years, except for 2, where, as far as the city of Lynn Haven goes, where it's
yeah,
like, "Hey, Miss Gaynor's doing a good job. We appreciate what you're doing." Right up there on the dais. It's happened.
yeah,
And so it did in a way, looking back on those meetings, it does look like shielding is a stupid term when when we're using that, by the way. I mean, I know that that's the word that they might be using or whatever, but if you're in a meeting, what I saw throughout those meetings was mainly, yes, you were, yeah, I mean, you were protecting, but it was protecting in a sense of show me some sort of proof and then we have something to talk about. But, pitching a fit and getting all upset and talking about your dang freaking observation, yearly observation all the time about how you feel like things have just been swept under the rug. And
yeah.
that's one of those other things. And I know Miss Vicky, she can speak for herself, so I'm not going to talk too much on that. But yeah, just my opinion as a citizen of Lynn Haven, watching those things happen. You know, I don't know much about her case, but I find it very interesting that this whole bid rigging and all of that, because as far we still don't know why the commission has let her go, right? Because the way that it was said in that meeting, unless something came
Yeah.
out, and listen, I don't watch every meeting, so maybe there's something
Yeah.
I've missed, but that was the whole deal, right? Like nobody could come out and say exactly why she was being let go because of legal stuff. Am I right on that?
Um, yeah, I don't think any commissioner made a definitive statement as to
Mhm.
why they were voting for her to be terminated. I assume it's from what they believe they discovered during the interviews.
So
With
why then if that's the case, if nobody's made a definitive term on that or a definitive statement, any of these commissioners, because like I said, I have not heard any of them say this was the reason why. If that's the case, then A, how can you let well, and I get it, she's an at will employee. No, she's not a contract employee.
No, she was contract.
She was a contracted
Yeah,
employee.
she was contract employee.
Okay,
Yep. So she uh
wasn't that an argument that was being talked about?
it was, and we had just renewed her contract. I think within less than a year of her termination. I think we had just updated her contract. Matter of fact, I had just given her a raise a few months before. And so yeah, we had just given her a raise a few months before.
But
Um,
she's still one of the least paid city managers in the state of Florida. We looked it up.
yeah, and after her raise,
Yeah.
in Bay County, she was still certainly less paid. Received less salary than her counterparts in Bay County.
Yeah.
So I believe although the commissioners may not have stated exactly why they didn't terminate her, I mean, we do know what led to those actions in the sense of allegations came out. There's a deposition that came out.
Mhm.
We as the commissioners received that deposition from from the plaintiff that has us in a lawsuit. So the plaintiff that has us in a lawsuit about this whole bid rigging issue sent us the copy of a deposition. From that copy of a deposition and some statements that were made in that deposition, laying the blame on Ms. Gaynor for the changing of the bid qualifications and trying to keep out a particular company by changing those bid qualifications, which no one ever said this company can't apply. So there's nothing within any documents I've read that said XYZ company cannot apply or put in, a bid for any type of, RFQs, RFPs that we're offering at that particular time.
Yeah, I think that was something else we looked up was that he didn't that company didn't bid.
Right, the company didn't
They
bid.
didn't bid on the second go around.
Right, so
And
that
so well, and everybody's like, "Well, he was the lowest bidder. That company was the lowest bidder." But so there's 2 things to that. Number 1, or it doesn't matter if you're the lowest bidder or not because the city of Lynn Haven, I'm sure just like the city of any city in the state of Florida or in the United States, they don't always go with the lowest bidder.
and what
Not always.
yeah, well, and what happened
So
with the lowest bidders, you were still $1,000,000 over the budget.
that's what I was about to
Yeah,
get
oh,
to. The
my bad,
number
yeah.
number 2 was you're still over budget. So
Yeah,
it didn't matter that you were the lowest, and it doesn't matter that you're the lowest anyway because it was still out of budget. Even if you're the lowest bidder, that doesn't mean you get the work. I think yeah, I could go down that rabbit hole because
yeah,
we've done a lot of research on the past of this particular company on how many contracts they had versus now and all of that, and we could sit there and we can blame it on people that we can blame it
yeah,
on the city manager and we can blame it on whatever. But and then the other crazy thing about that particular case, and then we're done talking about Miss Gaynor, and I'll get back to you.
yeah, yeah.
But the other particular thing about that issue is the commission voted for those changes for that contract, didn't they? Or for the bid or whatever?
Yes, so we did vote to, not go forward with awarding that bid.
Yeah.
So we voted for that. So when it was brought to us to say, "Hey, no, we're not gonna award this bid to the lowest bidder. We're gonna rebid this," we as
Yeah.
a commission voted for that.
Yeah.
I believe it was a 5-0 vote from what I recall, that, all of us that were there at the time voted to, which is basically the same commission minus, Sam Peebles.
Mm.
So there was just, Brandon Aldridge was in that seat at that time. So the 4 of us that are there now, minus Sam Peebles, all voted to rebid that particular project. And yeah, so I would just say, to your question earlier, although a particular statement was not made by commissioners on, hey, this is why we're terminating Miss Gaynor, trying to, I guess, save us from some type of legal ramifications, I think logically you can follow, in a linear fashion that, okay, hey, this deposition came out, a special meeting was had, she was put on suspension because of what the deposition actually said, in order that we might go do interviews with employees in regards to the statements that were made in this deposition to come back and then terminate her after that. Then more than likely what you're deducting is that, okay, well, you fired her for this particular action because that's why she was suspended initially, was because of that. And so then she's come back and she's terminated, based on whatever discovery was made during that particular time about the deposition and the statements that were made in it regarding this particular issue. So
So getting back to yours though.
yeah, yeah.
So and these are by the way, these questions I didn't come up with these questions.
All right.
These questions came from several of my neighbors
Okay.
and because I told them I was like, hey, well, I originally told him I was like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna have the mayor on, if I can get him." And so this was back in like the very beginning of December.
Yeah, I remember we
And
talked.
so,
Yeah.
and then I didn't hear from you for a while. And I was like, "Okay, well, maybe that won't happen." But this is a question. Um, one of my neighbors was lied to on her doorstep by another member of our community.
Oh wow.
Who was trying to get her to sign the recall. She signed the recall
Mm.
for this particular person, and so her question was the community members feel that the recall isn't being conducted in a transparent manner. False info on doorsteps and misleading flyers. What would you tell residents who want to know the truth behind these tactics?
Now, when you say the truth behind the tactics, are you asking like, are any of the misleadings true, or like,
Well, so like one of the things we have a pretty interesting video that I love playing it. It's awesome because one of the Republican rec members, and it's so bad, man, because I've been a Republican my entire adult life, and both my parents have always been Republican or conservative Christian, whatever. And our local Republican Party, and by the way, I know that my thoughts, opinions, and expressions are not necessarily your own, but I'm going to say it because I can.
It's your show.
The local Republican Party is just it's well, the Republican Party in general, based through the nation, is divided.
Yeah.
Locally, it's divided. If you look at our elected Republican officials, they don't attend the local rec meetings. They don't go to any of the Republican meetings. They don't want anything really. A couple of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I do mean what I said about all the meetings because I have the only time they show up is when it's election time. It's because they want the support of their own party.
Right.
But like, and one of the reasons why is because of things like this. Same guy that sat there on a doorstep and said that there was state police that was up at the Lynn Haven City Hall that were conducting investigations that day is the same dude that got on people's doorsteps and lied about Josh Street.
Wow.
Same guy that was lying about Alan Branch.
Really?
So, and we'll play the video. This was the other one.
My name is Charlie Nelson. I'm circulating a petition to recall the mayor. I don't know if you saw the news over the weekend,
Door to
but it's
door.
been devastating about illegal activity.
Illegal activity.
Yeah. My name is Charlie Nelson. Just talking to your phone there.
Wow,
I'm
he was
circulating a
talking to the
nomination
camera?
A petition to recall Mayor Nelson. I don't know if you followed the news over the weekend, but right now there's investigators from the state police at City Hall. They're going through.
What kind of state police, dude? FDLE, freaking FHP.
That would be on a-
This is what's being said on people's doorsteps, and then
And their ring cameras.
and the ring cameras. Like,
Crazy.
You said it straight into the freaking camera.
Dedication, man. You got to respect it.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That's
So,
crazy.
do you know of any state police that were ever up there conducting investigations while you've been in office?
No, I'm not aware of any.
I think this was the same day as I think it was the 4th of July parade or close to that. Yeah. But so I guess what my neighbor would like to know is like what do you think the truth is behind these tactics? Why are they doing it? Obviously it's because they want you recalled, but why would you stoop?
Yeah.
Why do you think people stoop that low?
I think when you can't find anything else, you have to make something up, and so you have to do whatever you can. There's this statement called by any means necessary. And so I think that's the tactics that are being used now is by any means necessary. And as a member of this community, it's disheartening to me, my family, my kids, to see that people would, go to the point of lying on you and just making stuff up about you in order to have you removed from office. There's another election coming up in April 2027. That, hey, if you want somebody else in office, we could have waited until then, put up whatever candidate you think would be best for that position, and let's go to the polls and vote for it without having to actually lie on someone, slander them, defame them, in order to, have other people to be sided with you to try to get them removed from office. So I think that's that puts a bad stain on our community that this is what we're doing to this extent in order to try to get someone removed from office.
Oh, I think even so, the truth sometimes isn't what we want to hear. So, like, even if you had members of the community that were going out and they want your recall, and they show up on the doorstep and they say, "Hey, have you seen how he talked to Jamie Ward?" And they show that video clip. I said, "Do you agree with this?" "Well, no. Sign my recall." And that would have been more truthful.
So
than lying.
right. So help me understand on my side. So what is the big uproar with how I talked to Jamie Ward?
So, well, all right.
Yeah, I mean, we're here. Let's keep it real.
It's like, so I was in the meeting that day.
Yeah.
I was in the back. That was my first. Encounter with Mr. Bostic.
Got it.
I was running for county commission at the time.
I remember you running for county
Yeah,
commission.
yeah. I was there at that meeting, and I the thing that So how do I start this? Because if I remember the meeting correctly,
Yeah.
Jamie hadn't made a big deal about anything that particular meeting, but there had been lead up. He'd been standing his ground pretty firm on it. Was it the Ricky Ramey situation? Or I'm trying to remember what the big controversy was, like why this happened. I know you had beef with him. I mean, and you brought up, I mean, to go that far into somebody's Facebook profile to bring something up from that long ago is pretty crazy.
Well,
I'll say it like that.
well,
I mean,
it's trying to get to actually know a person and discover a person. And so, again, we're talking about conservative values.
Mhm.
So whether I like what you do or not, I would never like for anyone to say to me that you're a POS. Never. That's me and my values.
No, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So whether the person's black, white, whatever, that would offend me if someone would say Ron Keel's a POS. So those are my values. Now, what happens is we say we espouse conservative values, but do we really?
No.
Okay, because I wouldn't like that being said about me. I wouldn't like that being said about anyone else. And so I'll say to that statement,
I take it you're referring to him. He called Colin Kaepernick a piece of shit.
he did.
Okay.
So,
Brace yourself. I think Colin Kaepernick's a piece of shit. and
and-
the
and-
reason why.
but here's the thing, though. We shouldn't call any human being that.
We shouldn't, but we do.
But we shouldn't. So there's a difference. If we're saying that we're Christian and that we're conservative, that shouldn't even come out of our mouth
Well,
about
if you're-
any human. Hold on, about any human being. Any human being. I don't agree with a lot of things people do, but I would never form my mouth or my hands to type or say those words about another human being. I just wouldn't. And everybody has their differences of opinion. However, that's my opinion, is that, hey, we shouldn't say that about other people. And here's the full extent of what I was saying about Jamie Ward, which, because I was interrupted, so I was never able to finish saying, which I told him later on, my whole point in bringing it up was to say, hey, when I saw this, I was offended by it. However, I still gave you a chance to prove yourself that this isn't who I think you might be, and that you are trying to work out to be the guy of integrity that you say you are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the same time, my point was, hey, give Ricky Ramey that same chance that I'm giving you, or that I gave you the benefit of the doubt. That, hey, this is what your Facebook page says. That offends me. I'm not really cool with that. However, I still gave you the benefit of the doubt as a commissioner. Hey, let's work together. Let's get this job done together. So that's how all of that came up. It was never to say that Jamie Ward was a racist, because I never said that. It was never to say that Jamie Ward shouldn't be a commissioner, because I never said that. It was to make that point. However, what happened, there was this big uproar, and then I'm interrupted. So my following statements after that was, when other commissioners say something, y'all don't interrupt them. There's no uproar. So why was there uproar with me? Why was there this big interruption when I made that statement? Right? So it's like, I hear what people say,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's no, where's the fairness in the responses to what's actually being said? So no, I would be offended if anyone said that about anybody. Right now, I'm under recall, and I have never said or even thought to call the person that's the chairperson of the recall committee by that type of phrase or make that type of statement about them. So maybe when people say they're Christians and they think that's okay to call somebody else that, I don't know what kind of Christianity that is, but the Christianity that I have doesn't allow me to say that about other people. Doesn't even allow me to think that about other people, because we're all made in God's image. And so then there is some level of dignity that everyone has in them because they're made in God's image. I might disagree with you, but I'm never going to slander you or put you down or say anything negative about you. I don't agree with the recall stuff. I don't agree with a lot of stuff. But, whatever I say, I actually mean what I say. And so I don't come out and slander people, not because I'm trying to hide behind something. That's just not my personality. That's just not who I am. And so yeah, I was offended by that. But again, the point was not to say, hey, I'm offended and you're a bad person because you offended me. It was to say, hey, I was offended by that statement, yet I still gave you the benefit of the doubt. and you're saying you're in the uproar and that you're offended by what this guy did, at that time being the chief of police, then hey, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Because as far as we know, he's doing a great job for the city of Lynn Haven. City of Lynn Haven, top 2 safest city in the state of Florida, right? Per capita, top 10 safest city in the state of Florida overall, and that's among the 400 plus cities in the state of Florida. Lynn Haven was ranked top 10 safest cities. I don't think we realize how big of a deal that is. You know, even now we're ranked in 2024, 2025, top 10 best places to live in the state of Florida by worldatlas.com. I don't think we really
I
realize
agree with that.
how big of a deal that is.
I want to go back.
Yeah,
Let's go
go
back.
ahead.
My turn.
Yeah, go ahead. It's your show.
So yeah, going back to the Colin Kaepernick thing. I get it. You're saying we shouldn't talk like that about it. And I believe it or not, I say a lot worse things about people on this show than
I got
anybody
you.
else.
Yeah.
So the way in which it looked was that you did bring it up. It was, and then it was the statement that was following that, which was you made the whole argument on when other people speak, nobody interrupts them. I get interrupted, and you say, "I don't want to think it's because I'm black."
Correct. So
that was just
go ahead.
Let me. So after you said that,
Right.
that I think bringing up the Colin Kaepernick thing, and I'll say it still, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. It was a long time ago, and I know that you brought it up, and you might have been bringing it up.
So let me ask you this. Hold on.
Hold
Let me ask
on
you
now. Let me ask you. Let me
go
ask the
ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
Like when you brought it up, and you brought up something that long ago,
Okay.
you were trying to bring up a part of his character that was a flaw that you saw that you wanted to point out in front of everybody. Am I wrong on that?
It wasn't a character flaw. I just told you why I brought it up. It was to say, hey, you did this. It offended me. I gave you the benefit of the doubt.
Why would you have brought that up, though, in a city meeting in front of people?
Because we don't have conversations outside of city meetings. There is a thing called violation of sunshine law.
Well, the Sunshine Law doesn't say that you can't have a conversation outside of city meetings. But I do understand the scrutiny that you're under, and as soon as you do, then you're looked down on.
Right.
I understand that.
Because the conversation was in the context of the Ricky Ramey scenario. So for me to have a conversation with him outside of...
I don't even consider that in context of the Ricky Ramey
No,
situation.
that's when the conversation was had.
I understand. But what I'm saying is that...
That's when the conversation was had. So, well, let me ask you this. You're being logical. Why would you bring up not saying you, but why would people bring, if that's irrelevant from 2000, whenever that post was made, why bring up, before I even moved to Florida, about me being a Democrat?
I agree with you.
Okay.
I don't think that's okay either.
So, I mean,
I think they're both stupid. That's
so
what I'm saying.
So that's the same. So the question is, why is it good for this side, but not good for this side?
I'm not saying it's good for any side.
But that's what happens, though.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is that for his whole thing is that, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because again, dude, I've been hitting the head a lot.
I got you.
So you're gonna have to help me out here. I don't remember Jamie just ever coming out and attacking you. And I'm not saying that what you were trying to do was attack him personally, but that's what it looks like.
Well,
and
previously, when we started when I was trying to do the Mayor's Youth Council, there was some pretty attacks there in regards to, hey, you're trying to do the Mayor's Youth Council because you're trying to promote critical race theory to the students. That was even said.
Oh, was this?
Yeah, that was said. People forget about that stuff. So that was said to me that, hey, I'm trying to bring government to the students because I'm trying to promote critical race theory. Local government has nothing to do with CRT. Nothing to do with that. It's, hey, these are our local kids need to know that they can be a part of local government and they can have an input as to what we're doing in local government.
So race was brought up to you before you even brought it up.
Yes. So again, that's why when I did ask the question, hey, I hope this is not because I'm black. So understand my ideology here. So let's talk real for a second, right? So one, my great-grandmother's father is white. I knew my great-grandfather from Alabama. He was a white man. He was married to a black woman. They had mixed children. Okay.
Probably in a really bad time in history.
So in the 1950s. So the census report has my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather living together in the 1950s and the 1960s. So when there's this whole idea of, well, hey, Mayor Nelson's a racist, my family has white history in it. And not talking about like history from slavery, but current history where I knew this guy. He was 12 years old. I was 12 years old when he died, basically. Well, I was a little older than 12. He died in 1999. Okay. So I was in high school when he died. So I had a relationship with him. So to say that, hey, Mayor Nelson's racist because I made a particular statement, or because I have a question, because for me, the question is, well, what other reason is it? If we're not being fair in how we utilize, or let me say, if we're not being fair, then what are the reasons for us not being fair? What are the reasons for that? And I'm not on your show trying to say that, hey, people are racist or any of that. That's another debate for people to have somewhere else.
Yeah.
But when that was brought up, I brought that up to say, hey, I hope this isn't why this is happening, because other commissioners have said other things and they do it all the time and nothing is ever said. So why is it that?
Let me ask you this. Let me
Yeah.
just break it. If you had to do it all over again, would you said the same thing?
Probably not.
You wouldn't have handled it the same way.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have handled it the
But
same
would you
way.
have not handled it the same way because of what has transpired from it, or would you have not said it again because you can see that it might have been taken in a way of you personally attacking another commissioner?
I don't know how people perceived it. And so I'm assuming
Yeah, it's not your problem how somebody looks at it, but
yeah, I think there was a different way that we could have handled our misunderstanding. So let me say this part. One of the reasons I was trying to get Commissioner Warwick to back down was not because, and I've told him this, it's not because I was so, it was not because, hey, I'm trying to shield Ricky Ramey. Okay. It's because if we are pushing for Ricky Ramey to get terminated, and if he's terminated, if we're part of that, and it turns out that, hey, later on, he doesn't get any criminal indictment or doesn't have any legal ramifications for the accident that happened or the incident that happened, now we could be liable in a lawsuit as a city by saying, hey, we pushed this and influenced this without due process.
Yeah, I understand.
So that was my whole approach was, hey, this is due process, because what commissioners didn't realize was in the same lawsuit we're dealing with now from a particular contractor of XYZ company, our names were actually mentioned as commissioners in one of the previous lawsuits or one of the previous versions of that lawsuit that we had corroborated in order to keep him out because of statements that commissioners made during commission meeting. And so it wasn't just something that I was thinking like, oh, well, if we say too much, then we're going to be bound by a lawsuit or we can be put into a lawsuit. It's because I've actually seen that in documentation in earlier versions of this particular lawsuit we're dealing with now with bid rigging, is that we were mentioning in one of the initial versions of that lawsuit that, hey, the commissioners had a vendetta against that particular person.
Why weren't the commissioners educated on that like you were?
Commissioners have been educated on, hey, don't say particular things.
And they still choose to do it anyway.
Commissioners choose to do it anyway. Even in that moment, we as a commission had already voted to say, let Ms. Gaynor do her job. Let's stay out of this, let due process happen, and let Ms. Gaynor do her job.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was trying to look out for the best interests of the city, because lawsuits aren't cheap.
Yeah.
And even if the insurance pays it out, that's still something that we're paying into. So lawsuits aren't cheap. And every lawsuit isn't paid by insurance.
Yeah.
Right. So if a person says, hey, I'm suing you for $1 million, and you've already burnt up all of your fees and attorney fees trying to fight this, and then they're awarded the $1 million, and all you have left now is $300,000 in the pot from that particular case, then now the city is on the ante for $700,000.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, if I had to do it all over again, probably would have made that particular statement. But in that was my deduction though, is why is it that we're treating this group different than we're treating this group? Okay, and so that's the only, if I look at all these other options, then I'm like, well, I hope it's not this, because I hope it's not that, because I think, hey, one of the things I've bragged about when I talk to family, friends, when I go to Tallahassee, one of the greatest testimonies for the city of Lynn Haven is that they elected a black mayor at a particular time when there was an 85% white population in Lynn Haven. It's the most unbelievable story in the state of Florida, is that in 2021, a majority white city, 80 to 85%, elected a black mayor. So it's like, hey, wow, this is something that's awesome. And so I'm proud to be a part of that history that was made in the city of Lynn Haven. But yeah, when it comes to race,
I think that's a good thing. But couldn't you? couldn't you attest to the fact though that when I was just watching an interview with a gentleman. I think he's going to be running for governor in Texas, and one of the questions they just asked him the other day was about that. Being black, running for Texas. I don't think they've ever had a black governor or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, at the end of the day, I'm not black, man. I'm an American. I'm a father. Well, he said, first and foremost, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He says, second of all, I'm a father. I'm a dad. Well, he went through this whole thing. He was like, don't quit bringing up the color of my skin. And the thing about it is, um, I mean, I've heard several, and not like I could sit here and name people all day long and be like, we don't care what Morgan Freeman has to say. But it's just like a lot of these guys are like, the reason why this controversy of black, white, all the time is because people won't shut the freak up about it. People keep it alive,
Yeah.
and they keep it alive through bringing it up. And the only time it's really brought up is when there's some type of controversy that's going on. And that's why, and again, Mr. Mayor, I don't think that particular meeting should dictate your career as our mayor,
Right.
but I do believe that it was definitely off color and it could have been handled differently. But I also understand, being a man that has done combat sports, dude, I used to carry a gun around for a living. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, being somebody that comes from that background, I understand when I want to have it out with somebody, I'm going to have it out with them. That's a grunt mentality and that's a scrapper mentality, but you're the mayor. And we do look to you for our leadership. And to see that was a downfall. But I don't think that's what any of this has to do with why we've got a multimillionaire in our community that wants to use money to try to flush you out. But I think we covered the Colin Kaepernick issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll move on to the next one.
Good conversation.
For residents on the fence, what are key points, facts they need to know to make an informed decision of your leadership and the legitimacy of this recall effort? Now, you already went over number 2 in the state per capita?
Yeah. So at one previously we were number 2 in the state per capita, top 10 in the state for safest cities in the state of Florida.
Did we have that with the former mayor?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that I want to bring that up, but I'm just trying to. The reason why I'm asking that is because of the timeline. What have you accomplished in your time?
So let's say since May 2021. Again, one of the safest cities in the state of Florida. WorldAtlas.com, which is not just like niche.com or something of that nature, right? This is an actual recognized, legitimate survey company, ranked us as top 10 best cities to live 2024, 2025. And so I believe that is from the work that was done in 2021, 2022, 2023, that it became evident in 2024, 2025, that we're one of the best 10 cities to live in the state of Florida. And there's over 400 cities in the state of Florida. So when we say one of the best 10 cities to live in the state of Florida, we're not talking about best small towns to live in, best bedroom communities to live in, best little big cities to live in. You're being compared to Pensacola, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Naples, Clearwater, Fort Walton, Destin. We're being compared to all of those cities to be able to say, hey, this is one of the top 10 best places to live. Not a destination where you come on vacation and leave, but this is one of the best 10 places to raise your family, have a job, retire, enjoy your life, was in the city of Lynn Haven. And I believe that was from the work we did in 2021, 2022, 2023, and now we received that honor in 24 and in 25. And so if there is something to summarize or to highlight, the leadership, the work, the decisions that we've made, I think that's the pinnacle of it, is that we've been recognized, in that regard. Now, obviously, what does that look like in, practical terms? How does that really, work out in what we do in our everyday life here in the city of Lynn Haven? When it comes to our parks, we have great parks, and we know that, right? But not only do we have great parks, and I'm not the one responsible for keeping the parks clean, but we're ensuring that we have great staff and great leadership that does that. So when it comes to some of my decisions as it relates to leadership, one of the things I've tried to do is make sure that I'm very integrated into the legislative house in regards to when we have our legislative sessions. At least twice, I've been recognized as a home rule hero, which means that I'm going to bat for the city of Lynn Haven and other small cities and large cities within the state of Florida. So Florida League of Cities has recognized me as a home rule hero. So whenever we're in legislative session, I'm in contact with Representative Griff Griffiths. I'm in contact with Senator Jay Trumbull. I've traveled over to Tallahassee, and on one of my trips to Tallahassee, I had 8 meetings with various representatives to push for the things that we needed to make sure that we could protect our home rule here in Lynn Haven, and push for different bills and laws to ensure that, hey, it not only protects all the other cities, but for particular interests that we have here in Lynn Haven. And so to be recognized by the Florida League of Cities for that at least twice is part of my leadership. So that means that you're putting the work in. As much as possible, I try to be engaged and visible when we have our various activities. I try to attend the various events that we have, and be a community person, not just a leader that's there at the dais and making decisions that impact everyone, but trying to be involved in a day-to-day life within the city of Lynn Haven. I've had a chance to speak at Mosley High School. I've had a chance to do interviews with some of the kids at North Bay Haven, which is always great when they contact me. And I'm sure they might do it for other commissioners as well. I don't know. To be able to answer the questions they have about why did you become mayor? Why are you a part of this, community? Any advice that they will have on that. So even when it comes to some of the decisions we've made financially, I've tried to make and have input on making, good financial decisions for us. If you want to follow a timeline, part of the timeline to this recall, when you mentioned, who the chairperson was, is that you might have received a letter in the mail saying that Ms. Gaynor and I paid off a $4+ million loan, and we should have put that money in the bank and saved it. Well, that money came through the American Rescue Act, so we couldn't put that money in the bank to save it to try to pay it off.
Wait a sec. Okay, I didn't know that. What? No.
So,
well, no. I know about the money being paid off.
right.
So that money was government aid.
Yes, that money was government American.
Yeah, you can't
Rescue
put that
Plan.
in the bank and
We
save
couldn't
that.
put it in the bank and save that. But you have. So now, when you're saying, "Well, hey, this is bad financial,"
I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? Though, hold on now.
yeah,
This is, you were talking, the second ago we were talking about why is it okay for one side to say this? Why is it okay for the other one? And we're not making it about color. This is what I want to know. How do you get away with how do you get away with sending out a flyer? Which, I mean, that was one of the questions, and I guess that's what she was talking about, was one of those flyers.
yeah.
How do you get away with that?
Well,
You are no.
Yeah.
It is a deliberate lie. You don't think that old man? Sorry, I know. I'm sorry. I've tried to be.
Hey, you're good.
Well, man, when I do this show, I don't have a minister on all the time, so you're gonna have to bear with me. But
Well,
I've done good so far.
You're always on your best behavior when we talk. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for
I
that.
do that out of respect for you.
Yeah.
But let me try to break down these words a little bit better. How do you know good and darn well that the chairman of this recall committee knows enough about government over his years of doing contract work, working with government, having friends that work in government. You know that he knows that about that. So you got a couple of things here. First of all, it's the deliberate gall to even put that in a letter and send it out. And then the second thing has to do with about your integrity and your character. To put something like that in a statement that goes out in the community, and then not you, but him, is going to sit there on this high horse and say, this is what all the great things that I've done for the community. And I care about the community, but you're going to lie to them. That's no better than any politician up in Washington. So, but my question to you is, and because I know you've been in contact with your legal team, there might be things that you can't say, but how is he allowed to get away with it?
Initially, sometimes you're allowed to get away with that because it depends on someone's interpretation of the law, right? So at some point,
Well, the law is blind.
well,
It's supposed to
it
be.
it is, yeah. Lady
So-
Justice is blind, and so what happens is when I say interpretation of the law, depends on which lawyer you're talking to about how they see the law as it relates to slander, defamation, libel in regards to politicians. As you know, it's a different threshold for political officials or public officials, whether it's a elected official or someone that's hired in a public official position. That it's a higher threshold there of that when you do commit slander, libel, defamation, that the law states that it has to be with the intent to cause like malice in that particular situation. So you could, if you claim that, hey, well, I didn't know, I wasn't trying to cause harm or malice. I was
Yes,
just
but,
trying
but
to.
yeah, the hell he is, because he's sitting there and putting it in a freaking letter that's going out to everybody, and he's saying that you're paying off this this loan, and you know that you should put money into an account with that, and he's building a profile of things
Yeah.
that you are doing that is illegitimate, it's irresponsible, it's there's a list of words that they call it in most of these things, but they're sitting there and they're trying to build a case on this and say that, like, oh yeah, they're not looking out for your best interest as citizens, and this is another reason why he needs to go. And it's like, no, dude, that's not okay. You're lying because we can't put that money in a bank account.
Yeah, we can't.
Like,
There was an
I mean,
expiration.
this is one of many things, but
Yeah.
and I don't want to harp on it too much, but I mean,
No.
that's a perfect example right there of, like, you're twisting and you're turning things, and then so okay,
Yeah.
okay, Mr. Guy, um it would have been the same, dude, that if you would have put the money in an account, which you wouldn't even have been allowed to. The city of attorney would have caught that, right? Or your
Yeah.
financials and all that. You can't do that with the money.
Right.
But let's pretend for a second that it did get through through there, and they did it the way that he wanted it to be done, right?
Yeah.
Then he would be writing a letter saying you guys were inexperienced, don't have enough knowledge, and you guys are running the city. So there's like no winning.
Yeah, there's no win in that particular situation. So so I think part of our leadership has been trying to be as fiscally conservative as possible. So in working with Ms. Gaynor and with the finance team since I've been mayor, we have not increased our debt at the city of Lynn Haven. We haven't taken out a loan in the city of Lynn Haven since becoming mayor. So everything we've been on cash flow. So when we bought our new fire truck a few years ago, we bought it with cash.
Yeah.
Even the new fire truck that we received this year, that was a gift from the appropriations from the state legislature of almost $1 million. So that was $1 million that we didn't have to spend as a city in order to acquire that apparatus so that we could have safety and improve our safety here in the city of Lynn Haven through our fire department. And so, yeah, I think, when it comes to leadership, that I haven't made the perfect decisions. I haven't, but I think in my estimation, I've made the best decisions that impact the community overall. Because I don't think about a particular neighborhood when we're making a decision like, okay, well, is this neighborhood going to be happy with my decision?
Mhm.
I live in a neighborhood. I live in Moord Highlands, right? But living in Moord Highlands, I can't just think of what decisions are going to be best just for my neighborhood, because there's other neighborhoods throughout the city of Lynn Haven. There's nearly 20,000 citizens in the city of Lynn Haven.
Mm.
And so I try to keep all of those individuals in mind whenever I'm making this particular decision.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when it comes to leadership, I've tried to be a leader that's available to people, a leader that if you have an issue, you want to meet with me about it, even if we disagree about it, we can meet, we can talk. I mean, when you've called me, we haven't
Yeah.
always agreed, but I've tried to follow up with
Yeah.
you, call you back, discuss whatever, indifferences we might have about that particular issue, and then move on, right? And so, okay, hey, how can we continue to work together in order to improve the city of Lynn Haven? And so that's what I've tried to do, as a city leader. Man, I wish I could sit here and take credit for all the great things that Lynn Haven has done, but I can't. But I can identify a few things that I've had my hands on to try to make sure that we're continuing to grow to be the best city that we can be. And so, yeah, making sure that we're financially healthy has been a big part of it. We're almost paid our debt down by nearly $30 million since I've been in office. And that's huge. Now, somebody,
Yeah, it's a big deal.
someone might say, well, hey, that was already on schedule to pay down. Just because it's on schedule don't mean you're going to pay it down. That's why
Yeah,
people
exactly.
foreclose,
Yep.
right? That's why people have repos. Just because it's on a schedule doesn't mean that it's going to automatically be paid down. And so we've been,
To be able to stick to a plan with your staff, which I mean, I know that was a lot of that was done by Vicky and her staff.
yeah, did a
But
great job.
to
Yeah.
be able to stay on, because I've been in and out of government programs for a while, and yeah, there's a lot of plans to spend and save and whatever, but then things just come up, and then things don't happen that way. So yeah, so with anything, if you're able to stay on track to be able to do that, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
So that comes from good planning, comes from good leadership.
Yeah, it does. It
So,
does. I mean, and
uh,
we've had good leadership, good planning, and I hope we continue to have that as we move forward as a city. And we've, as much as possible, I'm not going to say as much as possible, as much as we know how, have invited citizens to come in and be a part. Right. I'm not going to say as much as possible as if we're trying to limit someone. We've created. I was part of the initial creation of the charter committee, the initiation of the debt review committee, which would then evolved into the finance review committee. Hey, we do want citizen input. We do want citizens to be involved. We do want citizens to be engaged, which is why we initially had tried to start we did launch the Mayor's Youth Council, because that's a voice we weren't hearing.
Yeah.
Right, we weren't hearing the youth voice. Where if you're a senior in high school next year, you're voting. Next year, you're an adult. You're a citizen in our community. That I want to make sure that you feel like you're making a contribution and that your voice is being heard. If you have a job, you're paying taxes, right? And so how is that, being used? If you're buying your first home, you're paying property taxes. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 19, 20, 21. And so, hey, how do we be inclusive of everyone, that's involved within our city as it relates to having a voice? So yeah, but again, I think to summarize the leadership is to say, not only are we the best city in Bay County, and people say that, but no, we really are the best city in Bay County, one of the best cities in Northwest Florida.
Safest.
Safest cities in Northwest Florida, and is proven by the stats, right? Is proven by the recognition and the honors that we've received, not just because we make a statement and say that, but because we're putting the work in to make sure that we do that.
Roger, tracking. I'm going to redirect to a different part, and then I've got a couple other questions. Why were you against having a clerk?
So, do you want to know the real reason I was against having a clerk? Or do you want to know the reason I was against having a clerk?
Well, what do you want people to know?
So in the,
which this hasn't been brought up, by the way. So these are all questions from other people.
Okay.
The ones that are just things that. So I had Jamie work on. I don't know if you watched that episode.
I didn't get a chance to see it. No.
Yeah, he came on. We talked about it. I had Zach Detweiler on. That one was. Yeah, but and so I did agree with both of them on having a city clerk.
Yeah.
But it's always been said, and then of course I've seen the video, but you pushed against it, and I'm kind of curious on why you didn't want the checks and balances there, or why.
So in 2021, when we had our, I believe it was the runoff elections in 2021, it was verified by credible sources that there were citizens in Lynn Haven that were cooperating with commissioners or individuals that were running for commissioner at that particular time, who later on became commissioners, that they should, when they get into office, that one of these particular commissioners would become the mayor pro tem, and that if I was ever out, that the mayor pro tem would then make the motion to install a city clerk, and installing a city clerk, make the motion to have the position for city clerk. And then once that motion was made to have a city clerk, then the next motion would be to terminate Ms. Vicky Gaynor, because at the time we didn't have an assistant city manager. And so some of the pushback to, well, we don't want to terminate Ms. Gaynor because we don't have an assistant city manager who's going to run the city. Then they would say, well, hey, the clerk is going to do this and take over this particular position. So we have
like a
someone.
mutiny type thing?
I'm not really sure. That is what the information came to me from credible sources. And this came from 2 or 3 different individuals who heard these particular conversations.
Are these people, will they Are they part of any? Will there be repercussions for that at all? Because that sounds pretty crazy. Will they be? I guess. I mean, I get you could say whatever you want,
Yeah.
but like, is I feel like that's. I mean, that's.
Well,
Is that I mean, is it? I guess it's legal to do that. I mean, but I mean, it's almost kind of like people are conspiring to have a city clerk to fire the city manager.
that is the information that I received in 2021 from very credible sources that heard this. It's from different sources that actually heard this.
Really?
Yeah. And so,
So 2021, that was what? That was in your first term?
that was in my first term.
And so in your second term, that's when we came up with this city clerk idea, or where it was
No,
being,
I believe that was pushed in the first term.
oh, was it?
So the city clerk idea was pushed in the first term. Some of it might have came up the second term as well. But again, here's what happens. And
Why did everybody want Vicky Gaynor gone so bad?
about power and control, I guess I don't know. In my working with Miss Gaynor, she was always fair. She didn't play the fiddle. She did not play favorites, and so she treated everyone fairly. And so, if you were accustomed to a particular form of government before her, and that type of form of government changed, then I think
I tell you what, though, if she would have done. Sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
yeah.
If she would have done, so I watched this. I don't know if it was the last meeting. It might have been the one before. Chris Lightfoot. First of all, I don't really put on a tinfoil hat for local issues. Mine mainly go to the feds. But what I think is interesting is I watched Chris Lightfoot stand up for his staff in the last meeting, and he looked at a commissioner and he said, "Hey, when you say things like we have a corruption problem in our city, our employees hear that, and then they don't want to be drug into this, and they don't want anything to do, and that's a slap in the face to them. Those are my employees, or whatever." If Vicky Gaynor would have talked to a commissioner like that, hell would have broken loose the next day. That woman, every time she got up there.
So the question is, why is that though?
Well,
I mean, I'm just asking, and let me be very clear.
If you want to know, I'll answer.
And I'm not trying to race bait you or any of that, but those are the real questions that people have. Is that why?
I think it's because she's a woman.
So why would there be a difference in her saying that versus him saying that when it's the truth? If they're speaking truth, why?
Because
why would there be
when
a
women
difference?
speak, do you want to hear me say some crazy stuff? You're about to hear it. When women speak from authority, pretty much, especially most masculine men, when a woman speaks in authority, I almost kind of like giggle. Like I'd have paid no attention to it, because women are, they were sent from God to be man's partner. So being a man of faith, even though my mouth doesn't, necessarily match that all the time, I get it. But being a man of faith, my wife submits to my authority, and so when I go other places and I speak to women, I kind of I don't treat them the same way as my wife, but in a way, it's almost kind of like when a woman gets, firm with me, I always am kind of like, okay,
Gotcha.
I'm a man, like I can, and I think, when you have a woman in the position that she was in, it wasn't respected because she was a woman.
Got it.
That's my own personal take on it.
No, I mean,
I think that if she speaks from authority in a meeting or even to anyone, it's almost kind of like, you get like, who does she think she is? And every single meeting that I ever saw that woman in, she was sweet, and and I just said this the other day in a podcast that hasn't been released yet. And I had Vicky on. I don't know how we got back talking about Vicky, but we were talking about the clerk.
Yeah.
But I'll finish this statement. When Vicky came here to the house, I think she was like my third or fourth episode.
I remember that.
We've
Yeah.
done over 65 episodes now in 1 year. So
Congratulations, man.
I've been busy. But what's crazy about it is that when she came here, I feel like I'm pretty good at reading people. Some people might think I'm not, but she was so fragile and almost shook the entire time because I think she was scared the entire time that I was going to set her up.
Mm.
And so she was always like, from my personal way of, speaking with that woman, she was always watching her back and scared that someone was going to set her up to make her look bad. But I
Wow.
think it really does come down to she was a woman in what many would consider a position that a man should be in.
Got it.
And that's why you have someone like Chris Lightfoot that can get away with looking at a freaking, commissioner and saying, hey, quit talking about our staff like that.
Yeah.
And Miss Gaynor never did anything like that. I would have loved to see her do it, but
Well,
she couldn't.
Yeah, she did try to speak up for staff at times, only for it to, as you mentioned, backfire
Mhm.
and to receive more ridicule or bad reviews in her,
Mhm.
employment assessment and things of that nature. So, she, and oftentimes, as you said, she was probably told she couldn't speak up,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, you just let the commissioner say what they want to say and move forward or move on. But at times, she did exercise her voice. I think, in the most pivotal times when it was needed, to do that. So,
But you were against a clerk because
so my initial reasons for being against a clerk is because it seemed,
those statements that were made.
it's following through
Yeah.
this narrative of what has been stated. So when you hear this narrative and then not long thereafter, you see someone trying to do this, you're like, wait a minute, I just heard about this.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to input this.
Mhm.
And so you're like, wait a minute, no, again, if we don't like this person, let's go about removing this person the right way, as opposed to, using backdoor methods and being underhanded and undermining in how we're trying to approach these situations. Now, when it came also to the clerk, my other concern was that if the clerk is only going to be accountable to the commission, how would that tension work between the clerk and the city manager?
Yeah.
That was some other concerns. And then also, are we going to have to lay off people from certain departments in order to do the clerk's role? And from what I was understanding or what was being presented, what the clerk's role would be was already being done in the city.
Yeah.
So it's not like, hey, we're hiring someone that's going to come in and start doing work that is not already being done. We have this finance department, which has 5 or 6 people in it that's already doing all of this work that we're saying that we're going to hire another clerk to do. And so it's like, okay, well, I couldn't follow the logic on that. So
Yeah.
we're already, you're telling me, hey, let's get a clerk so that we can be accountable and cover all these bases, but we're already covering all those bases. And so, again,
So wait, who was Miss Vicky? Who is she? Who is inspecting her work to make sure that those checks were going on?
so that's the commission's role.
Okay.
So again, I'm very big on,
Well, how is it? Commission sees financials, payroll, all of that because she's responsible for that for the city, right?
She's responsible for that.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm saying we have a finance
Wouldn't
director.
a clerk help out with that, or who does that now?
So the finance director does all that now.
Oh,
So yeah, Kiki Roman, finance director. Now we have an assistant.
so okay, maybe I don't know what a clerk does. Well, so I will tell you, I've had multiple
Yeah.
conversations with commissioners from other municipals, and they're like, "Yeah, I want to fire our clerk." Like they don't want a clerk.
So it's all different, right? So basically, a clerk will do whatever you put their role to do, right? So in some cities, the clerk role is more clerical, where they're
and so the commission decides what the role will be.
right. If that clerk works under the commission. So that was one of the other debates that we had. Now, here's the thing about it, though, Ron, is that I wasn't the only commissioner against the clerk.
Yeah. Oh, no. I know
Yeah,
that.
but no,
Yeah.
I'm saying I was the only one against the clerk,
Yeah.
but I'm the only, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but
Well,
I'm the
you're
only,
being attacked.
but I'm being
Yeah,
attacked
you're
for
being
it.
attacked for it. Who was the other commissioner?
We actually took a vote on whether or not we wanted to have a clerk on the agenda to discuss at the time, and I know it was voted down at least 3-2.
Yeah, because I was saying I think Pat was against it. Maybe
So
it
I
wasn't.
believe it
I
was,
can't remember.
yeah. So I have to look back at the vote to see
Yeah.
exactly who voted against it. So that wasn't a Jesse Nelson decision not to move forward having a clerk. That was a city commission decision by the majority of the vote of the commission to move forward not having a clerk.
Yeah.
However, once again, Jesse Nelson's being highlighted.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Jesse didn't want there to be a clerk because then they're trying to cover their tracks and all this other crap. And
No, again, my
so,
my reasons were laid out in the sense of, and let's even move beyond whether or not it was about trying to remove a city manager, which in my mind, I did move beyond that to say, let's look at this logically. Okay, right now we're having trouble managing one position, which
yeah.
is the city manager. So we're not cooperating together on managing this position. Then now we're bringing on another position that we're trying to manage. And now how are these two positions going to work together? So for example, you're park and rec director, right? So let's put you as park and rec director. City manager comes and asks for something, you give it to her. The clerk comes and asks for something. If you don't give it to her, she's going to tell the commission that you didn't give it to her. So now who are you accountable to? Right? And so staff even gave us feedback on saying that in their estimation, it would not be a good role to have a clerk that was under the city commission in order that, because now it takes out, who's the lead as it relates to the administration of the city day-to-day functions. And so that was sort of me. That was another reason for me pushing back on it, was because there was no clarity on how is this going to go into our organizational chart as it relates to how do we still function as a city without there being chaos, right? And again, everything that we were asking that clerk to do was already being done by the other positions that are there. Now, since that time, I've had a change of heart. I've looked at some different things and said, hey, well, if we think we want to try a clerk, then let's try a clerk. And so I brought the clerk back up, put it on the agenda, and we move forward in putting now we're asking the charter committee to come back and actually look at putting a clerk within the charter so that we can have a clerk, in the future if that's something that the city wants to do.
Yeah. Did have one more question from this was actually from somebody that I was just talking to the other night. They don't live in Lynn Haven, but they're sick and tired of hearing about everything. They said address influence of wealth. Responding to the idea that this is about an individual's personal business interests. How do you ensure the city remains transparent and not influenced by private interests coming up in the future? So if you're still, I think I might have written that down. I'd use quick hands, so sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. I do remember this particular conversation that I had with this individual, and a very, very smart, educated guy. We talked about the loan that was paid off. So, one of the things that he was talking about was, and I think I've had this conversation with you before, last time you came on, was like, when have you ever known a city to take out a loan from a contractor that's done, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars?
Yeah.
And it's unheard of. In fact, you know what? I'm making it a point to research that because maybe I shouldn't research it before I say it. But this individual was like, if Jesse's going to stay in, one of the main questions that he needs to be asked is, how are you going to make sure that never happens again? And is that something you can make happen again? Or make sure that it doesn't happen?
Certainly we could put some, that's a great question.
In the charter.
Yeah, we
right?
we could put in some, an ordinance on. We could put something into our codes and ordinances We could probably put something, in the charter, but certainly the easier way would be to put something into our ordinances, and even when we send out different bids, we could put something in the particular bid documents as well. I do know that we've been asked about that. So the loan was for the 17th Street ditch project.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how
And
much it was.
and so that was the loan that we paid off with the American Rescue Act that you got the letter in the mail about.
Yeah.
Yep.
The 4 million that was, but I
Yeah.
thought it was way more than that.
So what happened is,
You guys had paid it down already to that amount?
right. So we
Yeah.
had paid it down, and it was for initially, from my understanding, it was a 20-year loan that somehow magically it turned into a 30-year loan.
And there was
so,
all this interest behind it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we would have been paying that loan until 2047.
Yeah.
And so, we thought that was hey, this is a great way for us to save money. We saved over $1 million in interest by paying that loan off as early as we did. And actually now we freed up more money in the stormwater department as well by doing that, because that was a loan through stormwater.
Yeah.
So we've paid that off, and now we've freed up some of the debt that stormwater was in as well. And so, yeah, I think to that question, as I mentioned earlier, is something that we could certainly talk with legal about and ask, hey, are there any particular codes and ordinances or policies and procedures that we can put in place to ensure that?
Because you think, when was that loan distributed? That was in what year?
I cannot remember the
It
particular
was before
year.
you, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2017. I
Yeah.
think it was.
So
I can't
here's
remember
the
the exact
deal.
year.
So, like, if you want to,
Yeah, it was 2017 because it was a 30-year loan.
well,
Yeah.
if it was 20, so, but here's the thing on that. Don't you think? And now, have you ever had a friend loan you money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had a friend loan you money and then you get into an argument later and then you're kind of like a little bit hesitant on getting it into him because you're like, man, I still owe this guy money, so I need to respect this friendship that I have and maybe not make this a big deal until I pay him off?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. This goes the same way with, I think that was the,
Well-
I think that plays a bigger part in this than a lot. And it's not because we paid off the loan early.
Yeah.
It's because, and look, and maybe I'm not a brilliant guy, but I try to, and I'm not good at putting dots together, but I don't think it's very, very hard to understand that when you have a contracting company that does business with the city, they give the city a loan, and in return, maybe they're expecting to get a little bit more than what the average is, or maybe have a little bit of special treatment that other people don't
No,
get.
that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I mean, now that's me looking. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe it was all. But what I know about business guys, because I'm one of them, is that we never do anything that we're not expecting to get something out of. The kindness of our heart. Now I get it. You're a minister, so I'm speaking completely against what the good book says. But most of the time when we do stuff for people, we might say that we're doing it out of the kindness of our heart, but we do expect something in return, because if you don't, then that's called love. And we
Yeah.
don't love everything. So anyway,
Yeah.
making a long story short on that, because I don't want to bore you with the wisdom or lack thereof, but
No, it's cool.
it's more like when I had this conversation with this individual, yeah, he was just like, they need to make sure that can never happen again. And it needs to be something that should probably be statewide, because how much corruption, we want to sit there and talk about corruption. That's
Yeah.
corruption. Like, I mean, what are we talking about right now? It's not always government officials that are the corrupt ones. In fact, this was said to me by somebody who I'll shut up after this.
No, you're good.
And he's in local politics here, and he said, politicians, especially local municipal level, you can't be the guy who you can't be you can't be the guy who pulls all the strings and be the politician at the same time. You got to choose one or the other, because one of them has to work in the shadows, and then the other one kind of stays back and nobody ever sees their face. So, and what I've learned through warfare, there's lots of training, is that your worst enemy is the one you can't see. And so, sitting there and saying that politicians are always the corrupt ones too, but when you see something like this and you're like, we have a contracting company that came out and gave us however many millions of a loan,
Yeah.
and then we pay off his loan, he pitches a fit, and then he starts a recall effort because that's the order of events. That's the order of events.
Yeah.
I'm pissed off because you paid off a loan that I was supposed to get interest on. And I'm still, oh yeah, by the way, I'm still pissed off about that bid that I didn't get. I mean, hell, I gave you guys a loan.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I look at it.
No,
Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, that's a very deductive argument for sure. Yeah. You follow the linear path there. So I can certainly see that. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, those are all the questions that I have. I had over 30, but those were the most important ones, I think.
Okay.
I think we kind of hit on most controversial subjects, but there's something I want to talk about, and it might be uncomfortable, and if it is, you don't have to.
All right.
I want to talk about the toll this has had on your family. Alex, yeah, he couldn't make it tonight, but he's big on like how people that you surround yourself are scrutinized by the same group, and it's really hard because at the end of the day, you're still a dad.
Yep.
You're still a husband, and cyberbullying goes on. Social media wars, they kind of happen here and there. And then there's this public perception that's put out there, and then how you get treated is one thing. You're the one that signed up to do that. Your family did sign up to do it with you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how's your family been able to handle this and still stay positive and stand behind you to fight it?
Well, they're staying with me and standing behind me to fight it because we believe we're fighting for the right cause. Right. So we're fighting off principles and not for a particular position. So they realize we're not fighting for dad to stay mayor. We're not fighting for my husband to stay mayor. We're fighting because we believe that, there's an injustice, that, hey, he's trying to be removed from office for something that he didn't do. And so, hey, we do need to stand up to that. We do need to, show our children that it's not okay to be bullied. Because essentially that's what's happening, right? That it's not okay to be bullied, that you do need to stand up for yourself. You do need to speak up for yourself, because if you don't do it, who will, right? If I don't stand up for myself, then what am I showing my son? What am I showing my daughter? That it's okay for people to say things about you and to, basically try to overpower you or try to bully you, and you not stand up for yourself. That's what we tell our kids. I mean, you have children, and so we teach our kids, hey, stand up to bullies. Now, certainly we tell them, hey, if somebody's bothering you, go tell the teacher, go do this, go speak to someone in authority, etc. But most of all, we say, if you're backed into a corner and someone's bullying you and you're backed into a corner, you got to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what we teach our children. Mm-hmm. Previously, I was a Taekwondo instructor. And so every parent would sit in there, most parents would sit in there while I was teaching the class, and none of them objected me telling their kid that. None of them objected to me telling their kid, if you're in a corner and there's no way else to get out, hey, we want to avoid fighting as much as possible. We want to avoid, using our hands and our feet as much as possible. You don't take Taekwondo in order to go and attack someone. You use it to defend yourself. And if you can avoid being put into a corner, but if that's the only way that you can get out is that you have to push back, then when you're in that corner, don't allow that bully to trap you. You got to get out. And so in the same sense, I can't tell my kids that in Taekwondo, and my son and daughter were in my Taekwondo classes as well, especially my son. I can't tell him that in Taekwondo. And then in real life, when he sees dad in this position where, man, dad, are you going to let them lie on you like that and not say anything? Dad, are you going to let them, bully you like that and not do anything? Yeah. Like, dad, are you going to allow this to happen? And not saying that they asked me that, but that's what they're envisioning. And so what are we training our kids to do? And so I will say, it has been hard. It has been, a toll, because this is a community that, we came back to after Hurricane Michael. We decided to come back to Lynn Haven, right? We said, hey, like many people, we were displaced after the hurricane. But we said, hey, we love the schools that were here. We loved the small community, the big little city, or little big city as I call it, where, hey, we have all the amenities that we need. In Lynn Haven, you have your Walmart, your Publix, your Winn-Dixie. I mean, you got 3 grocery stores within a 5-minute drive. You have chicken restaurants, Mexican. I mean, like, you had all the small amenities that you needed, your basic amenities to have a little entertainment right here in the city of Lynn Haven. And so we decided to come back and plant ourselves here in this community, and then said, hey, I didn't have to run and be mayor. I'm a pastor, doing that in a full-time basis, but saw that our community was hurting and needed leadership. And so said, hey, well, I'm doing good. I've led my community well in the church perspective and has helped us rebuild after Hurricane Michael. Well, hey, let's come over and try to help our city do that. And so to see the sacrifices that are made, the toll, of work that is being asked of you, the small income that you receive for the job that you're doing, and then to see the ramifications of that to turn out the way they have, it could be disheartening for anyone. Right. And so, yeah, for my family, it's like, hey, is this in the end? It's like, well, is this what we receive though? Like, for all the hard work that you've done, the sacrifices that you've made, is this a result of that? And so, yeah, it's a task. It's challenging, especially when you got planes flying over your home, you got billboards with your name on it, right? And you just got countless lies that are being told. I mean, you have people.
What's the worst? I want to know the worst one that has hit really, really hard on you, and I want to know the funniest one that has made you laugh. I've been doing this a lot lately. My wife,
Yeah,
I've been lied about a lot,
yeah,
but not as much as you. But
yeah,
and that's one of the things that got us through it. Was my wife would say, because dude, it was like every day I was seeing something new, and I was just like, where did that come from? And that's how I kind of got through it, was to look at the funniest ones. But I want to know the worst one that really hit you.
I think the worst one that hit me was the lie about me making a donation to my church. And I say that hit me because there was a lot that happened behind the scenes on that. And so, as I understand it, Zach Detweiler was the one that started that. And so he was upset about Grease Pro. Again, I don't make the decision, right? The commission voted to permit Grease Pro to establish your business.
Yeah.
And we're in a, pro property state, right? And so, hey, there's nothing within Grease Pro's design, there's nothing in their request that would say, no, we shouldn't approve their request in order to build on their property.
Yeah.
I hate, I'm not going to say I hate it, but I can't help that houses are surrounding it that are in the county and not in the city, right? Because obviously, if the houses that were surrounding Grease Pro property were in the city, then we would be able to say, well, hey, this is housing, this is commercial, this is residential versus commercial. Maybe we need to rethink this.
Keep talking.
But there were some things that, like, okay, well, hey, how do we handle that, right? How do we change that? And so, as a result of that, later on, I get a phone call from an FDLE investigator saying, hey, I need to meet with you about you making a contribution to your church. And so that was the first time in my life that I've ever been read my rights. Never been read my rights before in my life. That was the first time in my life that I'm being in City Hall.
Did you get arrested? Or
I didn't get arrested.
Yeah.
But, you have the right to an attorney. All of those things were said to me. I say read my rights, but, the first time I'm being investigated for a crime.
Yeah.
I've never been investigated for a crime before.
Yeah.
So now I'm meeting with an FDLE investigator who's now going to take this stuff to the state attorney's office. And so I'm having to be interviewed about that. And so now it's like, man, am I going to go to jail, right, for this? Because you didn't like that I voted for Grease Pro again. And this is always my question, Ron. I wasn't the only one that voted for Grease Pro.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, I'm the mayor and I said, yep, we're going to do Grease Pro, and I got some type of corruption. That was never the case. It was the commission by majority voted for us to approve the Grease Pro request to build on their property. And so I'm like, wow, okay. And then later on, I realized it was Zach Detweiler because it also was turned into the Commission on Ethics. And so now that's a whole other side that you have to deal with on the Commission on Ethics as to whether or not this is something that's ethical And then depending on what their decision is, they can fine you, possibly have you removed from office, those type of things. And so that was a real challenge for me because now you're trying to say I'm a criminal, right? And to sort of try to get me put in jail
Mm-hmm.
because you don't like
Oh,
how I voted. I mean, to really get me put in jail because you didn't like how I voted. I mean, like, wow, that was like extreme for me.
yeah.
That was really, really extreme. And so that was probably one of the worst ones was that because you're trying to get somebody put in jail because you
Jail.
don't like how they made a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow.
I'm gonna turn him into something that he's not
Yeah.
because yeah.
And of course, after the investigation, there was no funds given to the church. Everything was exonerated,
Mm-hmm.
but then that lie continued to perpetuate. And I'm sure that's stuff that they told people when they went out for the recall,
Yeah.
on patios and things of that
Oh, they're
nature
still
as well.
saying it. They're still saying it on social media. They still say it on these shows, these little shows that they do where, they're like the Inquirer of Bay County, like, better strap up, put your tinfoil hat on, man, because you're gonna learn a lot about you're gonna learn a whole lot of nothing. But one of those things that's being said is like, like you when you start doing that to somebody, that's not trying to bring me into the mix.
But no,
I tried. They tried to have, man, same type of group.
yeah.
Tried to have me arrested for just like a Facebook post or a couple of Facebook posts.
Wow.
Well, we got some Facebook posts that kind of they toted a line, but there was never death threats, and I
Yeah.
can't remember. There was some other stuff that was said, but
Wow.
like, man, dude. But again, that's like one of those things. At that point, I'm all about jokes and having a good time. Sometimes pushing the limit. What's really
Yeah.
funny is they've never done it to me. That group hasn't. Everything that they've always done has been an attack personally, never on a viewpoint that I've had. It's always been an attack personally. They even got in the way of like me trying to sell my vehicle.
I remember you telling me about that. Man, that was wild.
Putting out my
Yeah.
personal information out there and trying to and then it was just like this smug thing, dude. If any of those people were to lose their job because of something that they said, I would be right on this same podcast talk about how it's not right. But instead, the only thing that wants to happen is people want to be hateful towards people that bring facts. There's a reason why I've had more people on this show, elected officials that come on and talk about who they are as a person, what they want to accomplish, and what their plans are for the future. They're going somewhere in life, and when people see that, they want to destroy it. They want to break it down. In my old profession, we called those terrorists. So,
Wow.
and now I come back to this civilian community, and it's okay to go around and lie and break people down and try to have them turn them into a criminal and try to have them thrown in jail and try to have them where their kids can't go to a specific school and try to make sure that they can't get a job anywhere and all that. So we could sit there all day and we can play this game with these people.
Yeah.
I've kept it pretty clean tonight.
You did good, man.
But what's the funniest one?
So the funniest one, and it was a little disheartening, but it was still funny, was the funniest one was probably when people said I had fake doctorates. That was the funniest one.
Fake doctor.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Yeah, that was
Okay.
funny to me.
doctor in leadership.
Yeah, all that stuff was funny
Doctorate
to
in
me
leadership.
because part of the reason it was funny is I'm an adjunct professor at universities.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be adjunct professor at universities without credible degrees.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a chaplain for the Panama City Police Department, volunteer chaplain for the Panama City Police Department, where I had to turn in all of my documentation
Yeah.
as a volunteer, right? It wasn't just, oh, hey, we
Yeah.
like you. Like you had to turn in all of your certifications, your accreditations, your diplomas. You had to turn in all that paperwork. And so to me, that was one of the funniest things. And matter of fact, some of pastors in our community, we didn't go to school together, but we went to the same schools. So
That's right. I haven't had you on since that. I had an episode that I did. It's still in my back pocket. I haven't released it yet. I don't know if I ever will, but I might. It's pretty bad. But one of the things that I brought up on that was the there was a narrative that was being pushed around on social media, and a couple of these little shows were saying things like you were trying to host a prayer gathering in the park at Sheffield Park,
Yeah.
with the community, and you were trying to push some narrative about how the people that were for the recall were like evil and they were Satan. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking about?
I do
Um,
remember that. Yeah.
but then I found out later that was not something you orchestrated.
No.
And was it orchestrated by your? It wasn't even orchestrated by your church, right?
No.
It was a pastor's group here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're literally sitting there trying to make it seem like you're trying to use your faith as a man of God
Yeah.
to try to do this, and really all it was it was a group of pastors, because I know several of these pastors that are part of it. And by the way, they're white, so it's not a black thing either. Oh
Yeah.
no, dude,
Yeah.
I've never. So when I was growing up, I never. Color was not a thing to me, man. I played football, I played baseball. Um, I never saw, like, I never grew up with, like, even, like, I had black friends. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Um, this is the only time in my life
Yeah.
where, this racial card has been played, and people say that it comes from you, but it's also come from the other side.
Right. So, yeah.
Let me finish on that.
Yeah.
When you say things like he went to his church, knowing that it's a predominantly black church, like if I were to get on my show and I sit there and I say he got his church to come out there and start praying in the park, and they're against the recall, and you start pushing for this and trying to, and then you literally start bringing up racial issues, and you start saying, oh, we've been called racist and fascist and blah blah. You have now made it a racial issue
Yeah.
by doing that. But like this particular organized event was done by a group of ministers that are tired of negativity throughout our county, not just here in Lynn Haven, throughout the
Right.
county. Let's come together. We're going to pray. And guess what? Some people probably aren't praying for Jesse Nelson to stay in office. Some people might be praying for him to leave. But
Yeah.
guess what? You have the right to freaking go wherever you want and praise the Lord in this country. It's one
Yeah.
of the many things that, as a veteran, that I can say that I'm proud of. That I raised my right hand to be able to defend that right, and to have some freaking nerds that are out there to come and try to make it something that it ain't. It's
Yeah.
annoying to me, man.
Yeah, those things are real silly. One of the things I try to do a good job of as a pastor is not to bring in my position as mayor to the pulpit or to the church.
Well, they say that.
where I serve.
Well, one of the. I mean, I've gone to several of the meetings. How do I say this without sounding like really bad?
Yeah,
It's like there are several posts that are out there that have alluded to all of the black people showing up at those meetings were people from your church, but not citizens of Lynn Haven.
yeah. And when we talk about race, like how is that, right? So, when I was actually being deposed, and I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this or not, but hey, it's cool. When I was being deposed, I was actually asked one of the line of questioning I was asked is that if the people that spoke during the meeting we had to vote on Miss Gaynor's employment, very specific names were asked if those are members of my church and those are black people in the community. Yeah.
Oh,
So they specifically went through and identified some,
and they were all black.
one person was white, but they probably assumed she was black too. But they went through and identified several people that spoke in favor of not removing Miss Gaynor for her employment to imply that, hey, these individuals are members of your church. So, because they asked me, and I was like, did members of your church come and speak at the?
Hey, believe it or not, members of my church live in Lynn Haven.
I was like, yeah, members of my church live in Lynn Haven. They're like, well, hey, did members of your church come to speak at the public committee? I'm like, I don't know. I have to see the list. Like, I don't keep a jog in my mind of, a log in my mind of, hey, here's all my members that come and speak at meetings. And so when they start calling out the names, I knew those individuals, but I'm like, no, they're not members of my church. These are members of the community. And then it was like, well, were members of your church present at the meeting? Well, yeah. But why were members of your church at the meeting? Because they're part of the community.
Yeah.
So I don't get up in my
You want
pulpit.
me to go to church and be like, hey guys, don't come to any of these meetings in Lynn Haven.
Yeah.
Like, well, they support, whoever. I mean, that's no different than, dude.
But-
man, there are people that get up at that podium all the time and they talk and they don't even live here in Lynn Haven. And as somebody who's here from Lynn Haven, I'm like, look, you have the right to speak. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like to sit there and start making a big deal about whether or not somebody from your church came and spoke or not. Who cares? They might be attesting to their minister's character. Like, hey, you guys are making him out to be something that he's not.
Yeah.
And, they're playing the race card. They had all the black people show up. And like, how do you, man, dude, this comes back into that same freaking political group that I was talking about earlier. They were saying stuff like that on their page. And it was like, bro,
Yeah.
if you don't want race to be spoke about at all, then quit freaking bringing it up.
'Cause
Like,
I'm not the one bringing up race.
oh no, I'm talking about these.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
like I'm being accused of race baiting and all of those things. I'm not the one bringing up race, right? It's coming from the other side, to allude to the fact that all of the black people in Lynn Haven go to my church.
It's only aside from that one comment, which I understand that you were trying to make a point about that,
Yeah.
but
then
that's where that race baiting comes from. Is from that.
But
thing.
here's what happens though. That's from that perspective and that definition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like from my side,
Mhm.
I wouldn't see it as race baiting. That's me genuinely asking a question. Like I asked you earlier, like, well, why is Miss Gaynor, why would she be treated differently than Mr.
Yeah.
Lightfoot by making a statement, right? That's not me saying, okay, well, hey, is she black? Is that why you're treating her different? And you clarified as to why is this happening. So that was again, the line of my questioning was, why is this really happening? Because I've looked at all the other reasons and I can't figure it out. Why is all of this happening? So I hope it's not happening because of this.
We have
Yeah.
racist people in our community that make things about race, and then they try to hide behind. I mean, dude, we're close to the same age. I mean, we've seen it, or most of our lives. I mean, I like I said, I just never really started to experience any type of racial anything until these past 2 years and living where I'm at. And I mean, I've always seen this stuff, throughout the years. I mean, George Floyd, the riots, all this crap, right? But my whole thing is like for it to come to Lynn Haven, and to be honest with you, what's sad about it? People love to watch chaos, but then they don't like it to come knocking on their back door. We have a lot of fire starters, and the problem is they've never seen, they have zero experience with being in a place where a fire's been started and it got out of control. They have a lot of experience with poking the bear all the time,
Yeah.
and then nothing happening. But one of these days, this couple of these groups and a couple of these little shows out there, they're going to say something, and it's going to be based on what they said. And somebody's going to take it, and they're going to run with it. And it's going to become this huge big thing. And it's going to get out of control. And they're going to be responsible for it. Because that's what happens when you lie enough. It will eventually turn into this huge deal. Anyway, I think I beat the heck out of that. But Mr. Mayor, I'm happy that you came on and you talked. I really do respect you as an individual that is willing to fight back at this, because a lot of people would just panic and run and just be like, it's not worth it. But the thing about it is any time that your reputation's brought into it, our name is what we have,
Yeah.
here on earth. I know you're, for the for the home to come, but my
Yeah.
whole thing is when we're here, our name is everything. And yeah, I do understand why you need to stand up. And by the way, you said, earlier, I wanted to kind of, and you don't have to agree with this, but you're not just fighting or standing up for yourself. You're standing up for people that are in our community and for leaders to come, because it will go down as an example, whether or not this goes through or not. It will
Yeah.
still go through as an example of, hey, you know what? There are people out there with big pockets, deep pockets, and they can get things done with money, but you're still going to stand on your principles. So you're not just standing up for yourself, you're standing up for a lot of people, because
Mm.
this will always be looked back at, and it will be looked at as, hey, you know what? Because you can't get away from the lies, because there's been a lot of them.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if I just can't, at the end of the day, if a judge looks at this, because they're still looking at stuff, right?
Yeah. Matter of fact, we have a case management tomorrow morning, and then the case to hear the motion to dismiss is for January the 15th. So yeah, it's still being looked at, and hopefully some decisions come about pretty soon.
Well, hopefully a judge can look through a lot of this and go, all right, because at the end of the day, a lot of this has nothing to do with you.
Nothing.
This has to do with things that were evolving before you were even in office.
Yeah.
And you're kind of taking the brunt of a lot of it. In my opinion, a lot of people can disagree, but a lot of those people don't have any facts that back it up. So, and that's the other concern.
And that's
why
the
we're here.
question, where's the proof? Because for me, I know we're wrapping up and try to close with this, is I know a lot of people sign the petition because they, were either misled or either don't like some of the decisions I've made, or don't like, perceive that they don't like my personality, though they've never met me. But I would ask people, just as they go out to vote in this recall election, to vote with integrity. Like, if you know this person is not guilty of what they're being accused of,
Yeah.
then don't vote for them to be recalled. Now, if you believe that I actually did this, but there's no burden of proof for it, then I can't change your mind about that. But I would encourage you to look for the proof, look for the facts, and then, as I tell my family, we vote with integrity, we vote for morals and values, and not just on a political platform. And so right now, this is being put on a political platform, not necessarily saying Republican or Democrat, but it's a political platform that's based on lies and propaganda. And so, hey, let's look for the truth, and let's vote for truth, right? Let's vote for integrity. Let's vote for morals and values, and not just, hey, do I like this person or do I not like this person, but is this person really guilty of what they're accusing him of?
Sure. Well, I hope that somebody with common sense will be able to look at it before it goes as far as it's going. So
I hope so.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
Chip on my name. If I pull this down,